everybody, Tom Vasel here, and welcome back to my going through the original Top 100 I did 21 years ago when I first put together a Top 100 list. And 21 years later, the games in my Top 100 list now are very different from back then. Back then, I just used the index cards to make them. In fact, the very first list, I just sat down and wrote it. I was on an airplane when I wrote the list. And I kind of just used the games that I was playing at that point, although I had plenty to go to 100 and beyond. Now, thousands and thousands of games. But it's still interesting to go back in time and look. Today, we're going to be taking a look at numbers 90 through 81. So let's get started. First of all, number 90 here is Cloud 9. Now, Cloud 9 is a push your luck game from Out of Box Publishing, and this was one I enjoyed. You're flying up in a hot air balloon. You have to play cards to keep going. You're rolling dice plus playing cards, and you have to know when to jump out and get points. It has been more recently been remade in 2015 by a game called Celestia, and I think Celestia does a better job at it. This is kind of what it looks like. And I like the original one fine, but Celestia added a few rules and just kind of cleaned up everything. Neither one is really on my list anymore. Cloud, I think it was just maybe only on that 1 year. But I still will gladly play Celestia if you want to play it today. I think it's a very fun game. The concept of jumping out at the right moment, it's an amusing push-your-luck style game. And I think it works well for big groups. It's a good, very good 6-player game. Then number 89 is Mamma Mia. Now, this is an Uwe Rosenberg game. This came out it tells you here, 1998. This came out way before he was doing Agricola, Caverna, Le Havre, things like that. He was just doing card games, best known for Bonanza. But Mamma Mia attracted me not because of the fantastic art on it. I mean, when you look at the cards, they are just these cards here. You have pizza cards, and black olives and green peppers and pepperoni and pineapple and mushroom. But what it is, it's a memory game as you're putting cards in a pile, and when you think all the ingredients are in a pile of a pizza, you put it on top. And you keep going, and then when you're done, you score it, flipping it over to see which pizzas have been solved. Now, I say there's a memory aspect to it, but no one's memory is that good. And you can try to guess, and you might even have cards in your hand that you can then fill in the holes if you're missing something from a pizza. This is a little card game. It stayed on my list only to 2006. It came off at 97 there. And it's not in my top 100 now, but it still is one of those games that I will gladly pull out and play with people, especially if I'm like, you guys have never heard of this game, Mamma Mia. It's a really good 5-player game. Then number 88 is a game that nobody talks about, Succession. It was only on for a few years, or maybe this was the only year it was on. And you'll notice it's ranked very low, but there's a couple things of note here. First, Phil Foglio is the artist for it, and he's done a lot of things. He's best known probably for the Girl Genius comic. And also, this was done from Your Move Games, who are best known for Battleground Fantasy Warfare. Robert Dougherty here, one of the designers of this, became later known for Star Realms, and this is one of his first games. Now, in this game, there are different people that you're trying to have influence with someone who will then become the king. I love this concept. It has been done much better and voting and pushing things over the past 20 years, which is why this one's fallen off my list. But when this game came out, there was very little like this, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So that's actually the full name is Succession: Intrigue in the Royal Court. So that was my number 88. Number 87 was a classic back then, and it's still a classic now. I guess back then I was only 6 years old. That's Chinatown. Chinatown, which is a game about, bidding for lots and controlling these lots and then building different areas and making money from them with a very, very strong trading mechanism. Now, this has also been remade as Waterfall Park. This was remade in 2023, and I think I like the Waterfall Park. It has better components. It's brighter. You're putting together rides. That's more cheerful than the Chinatown. This is a game that I like a lot. It was on my list in 2010. It was at 102 and then just kind of disappeared from there. I still think it's cool, and I will occasionally play it, but it is a very fragile game because one bad trader can mess it up. If I give you a lot of stuff, then you're doing well, I'm not doing so well, but the third and fifth players who aren't involved in that trade are all hurt by my bad trade with you. That being said, it's a kind of an intriguing game, and it doesn't take particularly long. So it's still not on my list anymore, but Chinatown, now Waterfall Park, is one I have nostalgia for. Then number 86, this is a game nobody talks about. This is Castle. Came out in 2000, and it was on my list for a few years, and 2008 was when it dropped off. It was at 102. And what you're doing in Castle is you're building a castle. So you put out these little boards and you have these cards, and you'll put a card out on the table. Each card has maybe a specific location. Some cards go on the wall, some go outside the wall, some go in the walls, what have you. And then you put a disc on that card to show that it's yours. The problem is if you put out a card, I might put out a card that forces a card to go back in your hand. What you're trying to do is play all your cards. That's it. So you want to play cards that let you play extra cards, and you want to set it up in a way so that no cards come back in your hand. It plays 2 to 6, which is kind of crazy because 6 players is this chaotic, idiotic, crazy, fun game. 2 players, a much more strategic game. And I really liked it at 2. And this is one of those games that I would love to see remade a lot. It was in this blue box line from Descartes Games. I like the blue box line. I don't know. I'll have to look for it. Maybe I'll do a video sometime on all these blue box games. But none of them are really talked about much today, with maybe a mild exception or two. But back then, I really loved them all. Number 85 on my list, which is, 86 this year, so it hasn't changed much, is Yinsh. Yinsh is a game in which you're trying to make 5 in a row. You take a disc, you move it as far as you want. If you jump over other discs, you'll flip those discs to your color. You also add a disc every turn in the spot you start it. You can't jump over other rings, though. So the other rings, you're moving rings, jumping over discs. I might have said disc too many times there. You move rings to jump over discs and get blocked by other rings. Get 5 in a row, you pull them off the board, and one of your rings disappears. The first person to get rid of 3 of their own rings wins. It is very strategic, very fun, and I think it really stands the test of time. It's been on and off my list over the past 20 years, but currently is still on. 10 Days in the USA. Now, the version that this shows you is not the original version. This is what the original version looked at. This is from the Aaron Weisblum and Alan Moon partnership. They did quite a few games together till they kind of broke up and they don't really work together anymore. But the 10-day series, of which they did 10 days in US, 10 days in Europe, 10 days in Africa, 10 days in Asia, and 10 days in the Americas, South America, I believe. And in fact, my wife and I played a variant where we mixed them all together. But this is kind of an implementation of Racco, where you're trying to, the board itself doesn't matter when you look at the board here. It's just so you know where the states are. And you're trying to make it so you can travel from one to the other. They've just remade this as 10 Days in the National Parks. Z and I reviewed this last year. It's a much prettier, slightly better version. They added things. But if you know people like Racco, this is a great game for people who have not played before. I like it. It was last on the list at 97 in 2008. So it's fallen off the list, but it's still one that I do like. Now the next game, Doom the Board Game. In fact, this is the wrong Doom the Board Game I'm showing you. So let's find the right one, because this is the 2016 Doom the Board Game. We want to find the 2004. Here we go. Doom the Board Game. When this game came out, it kind of blew my mind. This is what it looked like. And you might say, well, that looks like a dungeon crawl. You're right. Doom the Board Game, which was 83 for me in 2005, fell off the list instantly, and it's never come back. Doesn't even have a chance to come back. But you got to give Doom props. Doom was this game where you started as a Marine, you went through this dungeon, you got stronger and stronger and leveled up and rolled special dice to show you were constantly running out of ammunition, so you had to preserve ammunition, found better weapons, and you fought a big boss at the end. They remade Doom the next year, and it was called Descent. And Descent changed dungeon crawls forever. It was the same game as Doom, but it was fantasy, added a bunch of extra rules, and then they added a campaign mode to it, which changed dungeon crawls even more. But Doom was kind of the precursor. It is like when we talk about real-time strategy and you're like, oh, Warcraft. You're like, no, before Warcraft was Dune. And here Doom was before Descent for dungeon crawls. So I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I wouldn't play it. There's a lot of problems with the game. It takes a really long time. The enemies got stronger. Descent did everything better in many ways. But it's really, back then I was really in love with this game. On that same note, my number 82 was Runebound. This was on the list for a while. It fell off, and it was 65 was the highest in 2011, but it fell off the list. And why did Runebound fall off the list? Well, because there's so many other games that have come out. This is Runebound 2nd edition. Runebound, the 1st edition, I think, was 1 year prior. And they made Runebound 3rd edition like 10 years after that. But the 2nd edition here, this was an adventure game, and it felt like an adventure game. It had this wonky, you rolled the dice, and that determined where you could go. You would go and discover treasure. You would go have fights with different people. There were these dragons flying around the board, at least in one of the missions, that you had to stop. And you would get companions and weapons. Nowadays, there's so many flaws of this game. There's so much luck. It's kind of, the movement dice thing is interesting, but not amazing. Nowadays, there's so many games that do these adventure style stuff better, but this laid a lot of the groundwork for them. And so for a while, this was kind of all that's out there. With all the new adventure games out there, this one's not going to stay on, not going to hit the table anymore. But again, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And then the last game I'm going to talk about today, my number 81 back then. And this year it was 166. So still in my top one. In fact, I just played this a couple weeks ago, and this is Zendo. So Zendo, this was the original box for Zendo. Although I got to say, the original Zendo was just a set of rules because it uses, the original one just used these ice house pyramids that Looney Labs makes, and they're done with tons of games. They've now upgraded the pieces so that there's wedges and triangles and things. But Zendo is a game, when I taught it, I just taught it to some people, and one of them said, I played this game before because it's a game that has names everywhere where there's a rule. Like, this Zendo collection needs to have exactly one blue piece, no more, no less. And then so I put 2 reds next to a blue, and then I say that one's correct. And then I have a red, yellow, and just 2. And I say that's incorrect. And people go, well, maybe the rule is 3 pieces. Maybe the rule is that the pieces are standing up. Maybe the rule is that 2 pieces are touching, and that's it. So you're trying to guess this rule, and you make one and say, does this match the rule? Does this not? And it's really a good, fun logic game. The first person to guess the rule is the winner. So I think this one is intriguing. I have it in the Dice Tower library because I still like it a lot. Not in my top 100, but 166 after 20 years is still pretty high, and I'll gladly give it another whirl. So there you go, folks. Those are 10 more games from 21 years ago when I did this list for the first time, my top 100 list. And why or why not? They may not be on anymore. But it's fun for me to go down nostalgia lane, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. Before we go today, I want to say thank you to some of our GameFound backers. Thank you to Stacy D, to Jennifer and Brian, to Olga, to Haska, Anjay Tohaski in the UK, Mark and Rob from the Board Game Life, Brian Verana, and Joel Rodriguez in Turkey. Thank you all so much for supporting us, and thank you guys who are watching right now for watching us. We'll see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching another video here on the Dice Tower. We really appreciate you stopping by and checking our things out. Thanks so much for joining us today. And hey, if you really like what we're doing here at the Dice Tower, then there are different ways to support the Dice Tower. One of those ways is through Patreon. We have links in the description to this video. And we have links to lots of other things we do down there, so definitely check it out. But either way, we're glad you watched us. Tell your friends about the Dice Tower. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vasel, and I hope you enjoyed this video.